And let's establish a quorum. Madam Secretary, how are we faring?
We do have a quorum.
Very good. I'll remind everyone that Jack McBurney has resigned. So we are operating with 8 members today. So do we have any members speaking, Cezanne?
Nobody has submitted anything to me for speaking.
Okay, let's go to approval of the minutes. Lindia.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 28th, 2021 board meeting.
I need a second.
Second. I just have a
Okay.
question. This is as they were amended, correct, Suzanne?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, signify by raising your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's go to the president's report. I have no report this month. I have a question though for Cezanne. Are you covering who is covering the pickleball meeting notes?
Nobody's reading them at the meeting. It was just notes to us.
Okay, during the committee reports, if you all are interested, I could summarize the minutes from the project team, if there's interest in that, but we'll deal with that at that time. Let's go to manager's report. Mark.
Anyone have
Alrighty,
Brownie?
welcome everybody.
I
Good
lost
luck.
Brownie.
I'm hoping.
Brownie's
hopefully
gone.
this- What? Can you all hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, but we lost Brownie somehow.
Oh, where is Brownie? He should be back soon. There
Here
he
we
is.
go.
So anyways, welcome everybody. Once again, I hope that manager's report isn't the major part of the meeting. So
I'm
we're
back.
moving
I
forward
lost
with the
everything.
strategic plan. Next month, there'll be a quarterly report, and that's when we're gonna fill out all the boxes in Jerry Schoenfeld's lengthy strategic plan report that has all the key initiatives in all of those areas. So we're gonna try to fill it out so that that'll be available not only to all of you, but to the general public, and probably presented at the annual meeting.
Let me just make a correction there. It's not Jerry's plan, it's the board's plan, and all the authors are sitting here today.
It's just his template.
Right.
So anyways, we're working with the audit. Geraldine and Cezanne have been uploading information to the auditors. We did get some information from Rhonda at the bank about the PPP loan that the forgiveness applications are not being accepted by the bank. They expect that maybe by March 5th that the portal will open and they can start those applications, but we have not been able to apply for forgiveness on the PPP loan. Whether or not that's coming from the Small Business Administration, the government, or the bank itself, we are not quite sure. We're getting varying reports, but either way, we're going to continue to monitor that and make sure that we stay right on top of it. Yes, Chap.
this is really just, I guess, for you to pass on to Cezanne. Tell her I signed what I had to sign yesterday to authorize the auditors to do the audit, whatever the hell that was. So
It's just
done.
authorizing so that they have access to the information.
Yeah,
that
well, I
the
did
bank-
that. I did that yesterday.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's a yearly practice.
I heard you. Thank you.
The annual meeting, Cezanne sent out, and Vote Now sent out the second notice of the annual meeting. I encourage all of you that are listening and tell your friends and tell your neighbors that the electronic version of the second notice of meeting comes from Vote Now. It does not come from Sterling Oaks. This has been going on, I think, how many years now? 3, 4, 5 years. But we definitely want to make sure that everybody understands not to discard or delete the Vote Now that maybe look like spam, but it's not. So just let everybody know. Fill out your proxy. The proxy just means that more proxies we get, we just need a quorum so that we can have the meeting. It doesn't have anything to do with allowing somebody to vote for you. It just allows us to have the meeting. The legacy, the raffle tickets actually are going quite fast, and we're getting down to the wire, which by March 19th, we'll have the drawing. This has been going very successfully, and we look forward to seeing who the winner is. So that'll be interesting to see how all that comes down. We are gearing up for our member staff tennis challenge, and I think Cezanne's working diligently trying to round up enough people to fill all 12 courts with doubles, so that each of you tennis players who wants to pick a staff member to play with in a doubles tournament will be raising money for the legacy as well.
I want to play with Laura because I think she's under 40.
Thanks, Mr. Goodrow. Thank you.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
You just got, Paul, you just got in trouble.
Or
Wow.
Cezanne.
Yeah.
Too late, Paul.
Yeah,
Too late.
Cece turns 1 year older than my youngest kid in 2 weeks. So anyways, we're in the middle of pretty much in high season right now, and all of you know that if you've been out on 41, it's not much fun, and nobody uses 75, I don't think, unless you have to. But we're seeing a lot of people here at the club. The outdoor amenities are specifically getting filled up, which is really good. Tennis and pickleball are full most of the day. The pool is very busy. We haven't put out all the chairs. We've been cautious about that, trying to get, nothing stops families and people from moving the chairs around to sit with each other, but everybody seems to be very respectful when necessary. We do have new links if those of you would like to get onto the website. And if you saw the FYI last week and this week as well, down in the right-hand corner, we have a new link to the pool camera. So if you want it, before you come on down to the pool, you want to find out how crazy it is, you can click on that. It helps you with understanding the weather, the pool capacity, and what's going on as well. We're not, as you know, open up here in the clubhouse. We have been getting people who have been interested in it, but Nicole and her staff have been doing a good job of taking care of dinners, lunches, and everything down at the pool. And it seems like that seems to be working quite well. We're going to keep running with that for a while until such time as you all decide to change your mind, or the groundswell of humanity decides to help us out with that. But as I said, it's probably going to be a little while down the road, probably at least into middle March.
Jap, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take care of this in new business, but I'm gonna make some opening proposals at the appropriate time. I guess I'll,
To reiterate what I was talking to Brownie about earlier before the meeting really got started, is that when you have guests that are on your permanent guest list, family, good friends, and they're going to be visiting you, in order for them to be alone and utilize the amenities, they have to have a QR code. And the QR code is basically the same as the boarding pass that you use on your phone when you go to the airport. It's not a boarding pass paper, it's actually on your phone. It can work on Android or on iPhone. The only caveat is that your permanent guest needs to send an email so that we have a return email with a picture of their ID so that we know it's who we're sending it to and that they are on the permanent guest list of yours. And we'll send them back a QR code, and all they have to do is open that and they can use it to get into the pool, into the fitness. However, can't do it on Saturday morning or Friday night. If you can, the further in advance you can get it to us, the better we are going to be able to service that. And this week, Laura's away tomorrow. If you have anybody coming in, make sure that you email Cezanne. Projects. So there's a bunch of projects and some that are coming down the pike. One is the front line fence. I met with the contractor yesterday, along with the landscaping company, Brightview. You can only imagine that the front fence line that runs along 41 has all those bushes and shrubs. For them to take away the old white vinyl fencing and put in the new black aluminum, there has to be some trimming done. So the crew is going to come in and do the trimming so that they can go in and remove the fence. Once that's demoed, the landscapers will go back and do some more trimming to make sure that there's enough room for all the fence to get put in. We do have a couple of palm trees that will have to be removed, some smaller ones, and just one larger one down in the condos that's pushing against that fence. But it's minimal in that, at least from a tree standpoint. Pickleball court number 3, we're just waiting for the pavement to dry and cure. And once it's cured, they'll come back in, they'll float a surface over the top of it to make sure that it is fully level and drains. There will be no pockets in it.
When is the 30-day up? I hope it's pretty soon. It seemed like to me it's been several.
Probably 2 more, I think 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks, because they just asked me what color they want the pickleball courts painted. And we gave them that information today. So they're gearing up, ready to come back down and do that.
But it's another 2 weeks in?
I would say by the time we get it all
Approximately.
finished up, put the paint on, it cures and dries. They put the fencing all around. They put the screens up. They have to put the sound barrier up on the fence. They also have to do, string the nets and all that. So it's probably a couple weeks away.
But the main deal now is painting the courts and lining them and painting them. The other stuff will go very quickly. So probably 2 weeks is a good estimate.
By the time it's ready to go. We've ordered the Cabana oven. They've been in touch with us. We are expecting this next week for them to come in and do the site survey. Alan has completed all of his mechanical work with drainage, specialized water supplies, and electrical needs. So that's all ready to go.
What's a site survey?
Site survey, because this is a fairly complex piece of equipment, they want to know that there's enough room for it, that there's enough space on top, around the sides, that it has the specific electrical, water, and drainage requirements that are necessary for the oven. It's a
So is this the county or the
no, this is actually
installers?
the company that sells it.
The
They
company,
won't
not the
install it.
county.
No,
It's got nothing to do with the government.
no. This is
Okay.
this has to do with the company that sells the oven. They will not install the oven unless the specifications completely meet their standards.
Okay.
So we've been working, trying to get all that squared away before they get here. Street lights. I've been telling you about the street lights for some time now. I've reached out to 3 different companies to get quotes on the street lights. I've been getting anything from, oh my gosh, to wow, that sounds pretty good quotes. I will be bringing those to the finance committee probably next Tuesday to talk to them about their feelings on this. It's a reserve item. We're looking, though, I can just tell you that replacing the green post, and if you look at throughout the community, we have about 4, 5, 6 shades of green between the mailboxes, those street lights, the signposts that are for the street signs, and some of the other signs that are out there on property. We're thinking of going solid black for the medians and going black for these posts. They'll LED. They will have the fluted base that we have today, but they will be much brighter and a little more modern all the way around. And before anything's done, of course, you all will have the opportunity to review the quotes, the specifications, what they look like, and be able to discuss them before you pull the trigger on that one.
On Mark, a point. I'd mentioned this before, considering it was about 8 years between the first building and the last building in Sterling Oaks, I still think the quality, as far as a maintenance and their status, there ought to be quite a bit of difference. And there still could be an option of starting with the older areas this year and moving on to the newer areas. It seems to me not necessarily prudent to replace them all if the newer ones aren't in as bad, condition. Okay.
I don't disagree with you, Brownie. I'm just telling you that this is, if you do them, you're gonna have go down the street, there'll be the new look, new lights, new everything, and then you'll get to a point where there's a bunch of different color and different
Yeah.
models, different everything down in one area. So,
We've lived with it for 20 years. That's,
but at least they're all the same. So I'm just, it's up to you folks. I'll bring it. It's nothing to discuss and make any decisions on today.
it'll partly depend on how much it costs. Okay.
It's the money that is in the reserves, and it's fully funded. Sidewalks, just to let you know that we have looked into doing some changes to the sidewalks as far as maybe looking into pavers or bricks. The amount of mileage that would have to be done and how it would look is probably a daunting task. Alan is just going to continue to try to work diligently on the heaves and the tree roots that are causing those problems. We've just fixed a couple down in Wildcat. I know that we fixed a couple in Manatee. But if you do see some when you're out walking, or if you do have areas that you feel are a trip or fall hazard, and these can occur fairly suddenly over a period of a week or two, depending on the tree roots and how they're growing, just let us know so that we can get to those and fix them. Yes, Chap.
Just to clarify, as far as we're concerned for now, the notion of turning all of our sidewalks into pavers is off the table.
It's just at this point in time, it's such a large amount of money. It would have to be phased over a long period of time, and how that would work with the pavers looking different from year to year and going across people's driveways, and there's quite a bit of logistics and some ideas about how that would have to work. I can only tell you that the paver sidewalks that from when you come off the parking lot through the tennis courts and then through court 1 and 2 have been fantastic. You'll see later in my report that I'm asking for that sidewalk to continue from courts 1 and 2 all the way over to court 8 and take care of the concrete that's inside of the courtyard as well, and take care of all of that so that that would be all pavers and be easily maintained at this point in time, because there are several humpty bumps in that courtyard area and on some of those sidewalks. So we'll discuss that a little bit later on. Yes,
Mark,
Brownie.
would you be thinking, they do a good job on replacing the concrete, and you said, of course, the pavers will look different. There are areas where the concrete looks different also. Are you thinking about, is this something in small sections, maybe, a block here and there when it gets bad, to having our own crew do?
Well,
It's actually easier than redoing the concrete as far as from a labor standpoint.
I suppose, except for that we feel that it looked like a patchwork quilt, and it may not give a consistency.
And also, I would never run them through the driveways. I would stop them at the end of the driveways.
Oh,
That's fairly
absolutely.
common.
You got to do that.
Yeah, okay. But that's the case anyway. I mean, even with the concrete, it looks a little bit, I can walk down the sidewalk and see there's 3 or 4 different colors, or the concrete looks a little bit different. So it's no different when you replace the concrete. It's never a perfect match. Okay.
Okay, Mark, let's keep rolling.
I'll and my next item on the list is to talk about that back area. So Dave from European Pavers, who we've found is one of the best pricing and also has worked with us numerous times over the years to provide us with the pavers. They're the ones that did all the pavers between courts 1 and 2. Alan would rip out the sidewalk areas from courts 1 and 2 over to court 8. And in the courtyard itself, where all the concrete area is over towards the pool. And he would rip all that out for a savings, because for the paver company to do it was an extra, I don't know how many, $10,000 to demo and take off. Alan can do it with a backhoe and a dumpster on site. And then we just prep that area, and then Dave from European Pavers could come in. We would do this in a phased pattern so that it wouldn't disrupt enormous amounts of area for people to utilize. We would do this during the summer. I can only tell you that pavers, as you all, if any of you know, are 10 to 12 weeks out. If we ordered them today, 3 months from now, we'd get the pavers on site. So if we do want to go ahead with the idea of continuing the pavers in the back and getting rid of the concrete area that is severely cracked and actually somewhat dangerous in the courtyard, that would be I would have to say it'd be a good investment. We've already had one trip and fall this year against our insurance, and that was down in the condos from an area in the roadway that had to do with the dumpsters. So I think that it could save us some money down the road, and it would also be aesthetically pleasing. And anything else that we wanted to do with that back area down the road would be easily, built or moved with the pavers, just having to pull them up off the ground. So that cost from Dave for that amount of money, that area is $36,712. Some of that is reserves because we do have money in the concrete reserves for the back patio. And I know that some of it would probably have to go towards either from capital or from long-term capital.
How does the board want to deal with this issue? Do you want to pick it up now, or is it buried in the agenda?
No, let's pick it up.
Chap, go ahead.
I just want you to know that this isn't an answer to your question exactly, but I'll start with it. I think this is a good idea. The Finance Committee and Mark and Cezanne, we're meeting next Tuesday, I believe. And I'll be able to have a really accurate number about where we stand this year in terms of capital spending and long-term capital spending, just to make sure that if we want to go ahead and do this, we know how we're going to pay for it and what pot it's coming out of. So we'll be looking at that next Tuesday. And I expect we'll be able to give you the financial realities of this by the next board meeting. I don't
Okay,
expect
so
that.
you're suggesting we take this up at the next board meeting?
Yes,
Terry.
Yeah, I agree with Chap. I think that we're at the end of the year, so we're not sure how much capital we have left, how much we have to go forward and so forth. So we can wait 1 month. I don't
You're
think that's
at the very beginning of the year. You have the entire capital ready to go. There's everything was used from the back. So you're sitting at $100,000 in capital sitting unused balance at this point in time.
I'm aware
I
of that.
want to be satisfied that I know what I'm talking about. So give me a month.
That's what I agree with Chap. Just wait a month. That's no big deal.
Yeah.
Okay,
would think-
Lanny's got the floor.
I don't disagree with waiting. However, I just want to remind everyone, we typically don't do this kind of business at the March meeting with a new board. So it will be an exception, and we need to think about that. I mean, I'm okay with doing that, but I don't think we should put it off till April, because then the likelihood of getting the work done during the summer becomes much less. I think we could decide today to do it and get a report next month as to what, which pot the money's coming out of. But I suggest we do that under new business.
Lindia, and then Brownie.
It's my understanding that we have a regular board meeting in March, and then we do the annual part of it. And then after that, we reconvene and we have a meeting with the new board members, another little short board meeting. Is that not correct?
I don't think you have 3.
We
Oh, you
can,
have
if-
two.
Before.
You
I
have the
didn't think
annual
that-
meeting and you have the reorganizational meeting.
but
Right,
we,
but at the annual meeting, we usually had business while they were in conducting
No,
the
at
count.
the annual meeting, you only give annual reports. There's no business being done because it's not a meeting of the board. It's a meeting of
Okay, so
members.
it is a
If you
report
need
then.
any business to be done, it needs to be on the agenda for the organizational meeting.
but the
Oh,
way, I was next. I think if you really read it though, there's no reason we couldn't have a regular meeting, then adjourn to the annual meeting and then have the reorganization. Nothing us from preventing having 2 meetings in a month. There's no
Right,
reason we couldn't do it. Okay. And the
But
other
the
thing-
reorganizational meeting is a regular meeting of the board, so you can
We-
conduct business then.
Yeah, but the other thing I would say, I would think that this would, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't be anything other than reserves. We're replacing an existing concrete that's
Well,
become
that's
unsafety. It's definitely a reserve item.
This is
That's
what
why you
Chap
gotta
is
give me
going to
some
look
time.
into, and he'll give us a report at the next meeting. You could do a
That's why
combination
you
of
gotta give me
both.
some time. I don't know how much of this can be paid out of reserves, how much will come out of this pot or that pot. I
Yeah.
know we're okay,
Yeah,
but I want to be sure.
yes, let's give Chap that.
I have to agree with Lanny,
that-
though, that normally the board after the reorganizational meeting typically has 2 or 3 different new faces. So, and to give them decisions to make that they may not have any background on is very difficult for them. And if you had a meeting ahead of time and made the decisions for the new board an hour before that they all went into session, would be somewhat different as well. If I was a brand new board member and sat down and said a half an hour ago, the old board made a decision that I have to live with for the rest of the year, it seems kind of I have
Well,
to
it's a bit of a unique situation, but then again, these candidates are smart people. And as you introduce a motion, there's a section that we discuss the pros and cons and the ins and outs, and that gives everyone a chance to weigh the situation and then give an informed vote at the end. So it's not an impossible, it's a little bit unique, but this is not rocket science either on this particular issue. Lanny,
Brownie, just to clarify, we have money in reserves equal to what it would cost to replace concrete. It's an upgrade to put in pavers where we currently have concrete. So we won't have enough money in reserves that have been allocated. Now, if we're really flush, we could use it, but that's what CHAP needs to look at. But the one-to-one comparison will not cover the cost of pavers.
Well, any reserve item in the future will be more, and you can't expect the replacement to be exactly the same dollars, okay? And it's not, so, I mean, that's just a matter
all
of,
right, we're doing a lot of talking about an issue that I think we have an understanding about already. I will make this one comment. I love Alan and his crew. He'll do a great job with this. However, my only caveat and concern, I guess, is how will this look at the end of the project? I'm not sure I trust Alan and his crew to design this area. This is going to, it could be spectacular or it could be an eyesore. And I don't know how it's going to look. So I would suggest that the board give some thought to design. Terry,
You're precisely correct, because taking a look at the pavers, the way they do them, which are somewhat linear in style,
right?
we're not going to be able to make the same cultured look that we have with the concrete that we have at the present time. So yes, there is an element of style that needs to be reviewed.
Lanning,
I agree with you that the style of the pavers is going to be very important. I disagree with Terry that it needs to be linear. There's been a lot of curving sidewalks that have been put in the community. So it is possible to have some very attractive curved areas. I'm wondering, Mark, as part of what you bring us next month, you can bring a proposed design. I would think European Pavers would be able to give us maybe two options that the new board would then be able to choose from. With the direction I would propose from this board is to make it as much curving as is practical, so that we can keep a softer look rather than a regimented military kind of look.
parking lot.
Parking
was
lot
never,
look,
that was
right.
never, yeah, there was never the thought. It was going to be a landscaped area with green space, with curved edges and lots of, and keeping grass not only against the clubhouse, but against the existing trees and sidewalks, so that there would be a curvature. There would be existing grass as well, so that we would keep it as soft. But I will go ahead and ask European Pavers to draw from the area what they feel is necessary. Now, the sidewalk that is there that goes between courts 1, 2, and 7 over to 8 across the bocce is a straight line, but you need to keep that grassy space probably to some degree if you want to continue to hold events and other items out there. If we're going to begin to change that and turn it into a more curved or circular spot, then we're going to have to look at how we do events and what it's going to do to the area. We were going to try to keep that linear look out there, but make the softer and curved area within, closer to the clubhouse and over by the pool and the tennis stairways.
Well, that's fine. I for one wouldn't rule out a landscape architecture either. And we can ask the company what they think, but I really would like to see some kind of design before we approve it.
Well,
Let's go to Terry and then Lanny.
Well, you got to look at the use of that area at the present time. Even though we have a combination of grass and sidewalk, what we have is the uses being, I guess, yoga people are going in there, other outside activities are going on. That, I don't know, whether we want pavers as such to be in place. I mean, I just don't know.
I think I don't know where you guys are. I'll have to draw you something and have them draw you a plan, because I think everybody's got a little different idea about what's going to happen to that spot.
Right.
We'll put it at that. I can hire a landscape architect. We did in the past. We hired NAC to come in and do a landscape for, if you'll remember, with plan A or B or C for that back area that entailed a fire pit, a circular area, and a changing curving area for the back patio area that was going to have the tiki along with the fire pits, if you all remember that back in the day. But that didn't go anywhere. But I'll go ahead and have some drawings made by European Pavers with an overview of the existing area so that you have some ideas about what this would entail. I can only tell you that regardless of what we have to do, the curved squares that are part of the back patio courtyard, not the sidewalk, are going to have to be either removed and repaired, repoured, or something because of the cracks and the amount of trip and fall hazards that are being created in that area.
Right, I think,
There's a lot
I
of
think we're all in
those,
favor of
drainage.
this and would like to move forward with it.
Oh,
We just have the concern that this could be spectacular or it could be an eyesore. So we really need to pay attention to this. Lanny,
Mark, I suggest you consider curving the sidewalk in toward the clubhouse rather than keeping it totally straight. I understand the need for the event area, so you don't need to encroach by curving it that way. But if you curve it some in and then back to where it is now, you might be able to get a nicer look without encroaching on the event area.
okay, can we move on to the treasurer's report? At this-
I don't think Mark finished.
my only
Okay,
last thing was that the shade, I talked to the shade shelter people. It's my understanding that the shades are going to be delivered to their, they were supposed to come into their shop today. They were coming from Texas. They were delayed because of the storm and because that's where they're made. And they should be at the Coastal Canvas today, and they should be out here next week.
okay, very good. Next week, looking forward to that. Okay, treasurer's report, Chap, you're on.
Yeah, this should be pretty fast because I think you've all seen this. So this is primarily for members listening. We have the numbers through January. The end of January, we have an excellent operating cash position of a little over $500,000. At the end of January, we've accrued $318,000 into the long-term capital fund. Our construction loan is paid down to $160,000 outstanding, should be completely paid off by September. Cezanne, Lanny asked me a question that I gave her. She wanted to know when the assessments to the homeowners who paid over time are going to end, and I assume they end in September. Is that right?
The last billing for the special assessment is April 2022.
What'd you say?
But
The last billing for the special assessment is April 2022.
Well, it'll be paid off by then, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
We've paid it off, but they haven't.
Yeah, the last 8 or 9 months, the money will go back into
Back into the
reserves or construct-
reserves.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. I learned something.
Okay.
Thank you.
And one comment, Chap, could you also include the reserve balance when you do the monthly, what that number is?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is right now.
But I mean, in general, I mean, each month include that also.
Yeah, but just so you know, reserves. General reserves, we have a little over 900,000. Wildcat Cove reserves, 128,000. Wildcat Cove pool reserves, 27,000. So that's your answer.
Okay.
Okay. The PPP loan, Mark's already covered that. I don't have any data it's going to be forgiven. It's just when the government gets around to forgiving it. So nothing to tell you. I have a number for the enterprise P&L through September, but I'm not going to bother revealing it because it's not reliable. It's not reliable because of the way expenses are budgeted. Just to give you an example, if we have an item that's budgeted $12,000 a year, but we pay it $3,000 in January, $3,000 in April, etc. What we budget for is 1,000 in January, 1,000 in February, 1,000 in March. So the numbers I have now are just not reliable.
You need
I have
a
no doubt we
3-month
don't have any
span.
problem, but you really need 3 months of data before you really know where you are. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes,
Okay. Condo Waters, $4,000 better than we thought it was gonna be, Lindy. That should make you feel good. If that continues, the surplus we have will offset the deficit we made up for last year. So food and beverage, no significant variance versus budget. Tennis looks like it's off to a good start. Again, numbers unreliable due to the timing issues with recognition of things like tennis membership income, but I don't see any issues there. There are no unusual issues currently with bad debt or late payments. And that's the end of my report.
Very good. Any questions of Chap? Okay, good job. Let's go to committee reports. Let's start with activities. Lindia.
Okay. The Activities Committee met February 3rd at 10 o'clock in the clubhouse. Many events and activities past and future were discussed. Past events include January 29th, extended cabana hours with music from 5:30 to 7:30 with Jason DeSimone and was held poolside. February 1st, the Elton John Billy Joel tribute concert was held in the courtyard. Even the chilly weather couldn't deter a sing-along, well-informed musical crowd from thoroughly enjoying the concert. Super talented musicians, a box lunch, and fire pits made for a nice evening at Sterling Oaks. February 7th was a Super Bowl viewing at the pool. A small but enthusiastic group cheered on their favorite team. February 10th was Mahjong Round Robin Tournament and luncheon. Play was on the veranda and patio. It was very well attended and thoroughly enjoyed. February 12th was trivia at the pool hosted by John Coyle. $5 food and drink specials drew many gamers. February 14th, President's Day celebration with entertainment by Ron Rutz was a very popular event. It was poolside with music. Box lunches were available. February 16th was book club on the veranda. Looking ahead, the next book club meeting is March 16th, and the book is Friends by Lisa Wingate. It will be held on the veranda and masks are required. February 19th, dinner curbside and at the pool, music by Larry Roberts. March 5th, dinner curbside and music by Larry Roberts at the pool. March 10th is the big legacy event. More details will be available soon. One definite announcement. One lucky ticket holder will win $5,000. Yes, $5,000. It could be you. The drawing will take place at 6 o'clock, possibly in the courtyard. Multiple 5-star salespeople are roaming around with tickets for sale. Each ticket is $50 and puts you in the draw. It is a great way to support the Legacy Scholarship Fund and also a chance to be that lucky winner. Other fundraising events are in the works for tennis, bocce, and pickleball. The state of Florida matches whatever we raise, and many young scholars have the opportunity to further their education. Please support this worthy cause. March 12th, dinner curbside and music by Stacy Knights at the pool. Nicole is also exploring the opportunities to book more tribute bands for our club. They seem to be very popular. I left off the next one, so I'm just going to read it. It's March 17th, St. Patrick's Day event, 6 through 9 o'clock, music with Jason DeSimone. The next activities meeting is March 10th at the clubhouse. Cabana hours are Tuesday through Sunday, 11 through 4, weather permitting. This concludes my report.
Any questions, Terry?
yeah, I just wanted to add, as far as the legacy is concerned, for those people, members that are on viewing, this is a charity that we put together, which enables armed forces that are going to college for the first time in their family. And they go to FGCU, and we put in our charity event and as much money as we can each year. And the recipients go to college. They get money from the state of Florida as well. It's one of the best charities I've ever been associated with, and I'm proud that we're doing it.
Okay, very good. Any other questions of Linda?
Well, one comment.
Okay,
Lindy, I think you've had 2 consecutive terms when I was disappointed to see that you weren't able to run, I think. Is that correct?
I can't run, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I hope somehow maybe you would volunteer to be chairman of the committee or co-chairman of the committee, because I think the community is going to lose a lot not having you involved in the activities.
Well, thank you.
We have a special position for Linda as a super chairman.
I'm going to be on the activities committee still. I've been invited by our great chairperson, Lynn Frankel, so
We'll make you super chairman.
I don't think I could be super over Lynn. She's excellent. But I'd be glad to be part of that committee. Thank you, Brownie.
yes, I think we all second that, Linda. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Maybe we should just stop counting the votes and maybe you can continue. Okay, let's go to architectural standards. Michael, please.
Okay, you received the 2 documents. One was just our timeline for the inspections, and then the list of those people who have not complied with the violations. But let me just run through the timeline. The first inspections were done the week of October 26. Okay, that's usually a 2 or 3 day process. We got the notices out to those people with violations on November 4th. There were 267 letters sent out at that point. Okay. CSON sent a courtesy email out a few days later just to make sure, to remind people to be on the lookout for those letters, because we've had in the past people who come back and say they've never received the letter. Okay. The deadline for the compliance with the violations was January 1. The committee got out on January 19 to do the follow-up inspections. And the week of February 8th, the final notice was sent out to those who had remaining violations. Okay, again, another email was sent out to remind people to be on the lookout for a letter. Okay. The final deadline then was February 18th for people to bring the properties into compliance. And we did the final inspection this Wednesday. And on the second page of this document, you'll see the 20 people or 20 properties who still have violations. So we've gone from 267 down to 20.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Any questions of Michael?
Yes,
Chap, go ahead.
Just one, Mike, and it's really curiosity for everybody. If a person elects to appeal, how do they do it?
okay, I'm going to go through that right now. Okay. All right. The board has to make a motion today to find the owner, find this list of homeowners, and to allow us to contract to correct the violations. However, before we can do that, the compliance committee has to meet within 14 days or 14 days after this, these letters go out. And these homeowners have an opportunity to then meet with the compliance committee or send a letter to the compliance committee regarding the violations. So they have an opportunity to.
Mike, if let's say we send out the letter, during the 14 days, they fix it and they go to compliance is our normal procedure then to forgive the fine?
That'll be up to the compliance
But
committee.
what
at
I'm
that
saying, I know, but from a practical standpoint, has that been the experience?
point. Suzanne?
So, in the past, we've motioned to file homeowners because they haven't completed or corrected the violation within the timeline that was given. So we do also, other than these 20 homeowners, I probably have a list of another 25 homeowners that have modification requests that have been approved with contracts for other violations, and those are on an extension list. So these people haven't communicated with us, they haven't corrected their violation, they've shown no effort. So usually, even if somebody corrects it after today, they still get fined for not doing it within the timeline or communicating with us prior.
Well, that wasn't really my question. They get fined, they go to the meeting 14 days from now, or maybe be 20 days or whatever. And at the meeting, they didn't have proof they have do it. If I were on the compliance committee, I would then probably lift the fine because it's something that's a very sensitive item. What and that's what I was asking Mike, is from a practical standpoint, have we had that experience?
I have not been on the compliance committee for several years, so I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, Michael, do we have any action that needs to take place?
I'd like to make a motion to fine each homeowner listed in that list $100 for each of the items with an outstanding violation, and contract to have the violation corrected with a cost to be charged to the homeowner as a specific assessment.
I need a second.
Second,
Lanny seconds. Any further discussion? Lanny?
Michael, I have one question. Does this list include the home with the dead grass on Sterling Oaks Drive in Sanctuary Point? It's between, I guess, the second and third house in Sanctuary Point when coming from the clubhouse on the right.
What's
You know,
the, what's
they're
Need
the,
an
again not
address.
watering.
Need an address.
Yeah, you need an address to zero in on that.
I know that there's been a few lawns that have gotten worse in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but so they wouldn't be necessarily on the list.
Okay. So the committee will be looking at the dead grass
Well, we
because
have
of course
several
that
on
wasn't an
here.
issue back in November.
Yeah, we have several on here for dead grass and for sign
Uh-huh.
replacement, so.
You have
Okay.
5 on there for dead grass, so the chances are that's included. Okay, we have a motion on the
Well,
floor.
one other question.
Go ahead,
When I-
Brownie.
When I printed it, the last column is cut off. That's repair, DRI. What? Repair what?
Maybe it's
I just can't read it. It's cut off.
maybe the column you're looking at would be repair driveway cracks and heave.
Oh, okay, repair.
Or the other letters would be house needs to be painted.
Oh, okay, okay.
We're trying to be more specific.
Yes, I noticed that. This form is better. I like it better. Okay, and probably easier for you too. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to say you've done a fine job with this, Michael and Cezanne. This is a tough committee. It's oftentimes thankless, and we as board members appreciate your work. Thank
We get
you.
lots of feedback.
Yes, oftentimes doesn't come forward quickly enough. Okay, let's go to landscaping, Lindia.
Okay, this is from Linda Moxley, our chairperson, and just a brief statement. First look, the landscape committee has done a thorough ride around of the community and is currently compiling a list of all areas that need attention. Once all input has been received, the next step for the committee will be to begin to prioritize the items requiring attention. In the coming month, the list will start with the top 5 projects, and estimates will be requested from Brightview after we meet and examine in detail the areas in question. Future additions to the list will then be considered and added. I will tell you that we took out 2 golf courts and 4 of us went. And we went to every area and looked at everything. So I think what we're doing now is we're rating them 1 through 3. The top 5 will be in number 1. And that's how we're going to go. But right now, we do not have any further to add. Thank you.
Hey, Chap,
I just want to remind everyone and Lindia and ask Cezanne to check if I'm right. We have 50 grand budgeted for this kind of stuff, right?
Yes,
Cezanne, is that right?
yes, that's right.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
I
all.
think so.
Lanny,
Lindia, did you also walk through the tennis and club area?
yes.
Thank you.
okay.
I got my hand up, Paul.
I'm sorry, Brownie. It's, go
Okay,
ahead.
question to Mark. 2 of the last 3 weekends, I've spent a couple of hours raking out the blown leaves into my yard. The trees are really starting to shed. When I walk the dog, I see there's a lot of leaves. I know they've agreed to 2 times they're going to do that, Mark. It looks like to me we're at one of those times. There's a lot of leaves in the yards. And like I say, I've raked like 2 30-gallon bags for 2 weekends. Just
They're
what
scheduled to be-
happened, they're blowing them into the yard. So they're on the sidewalk and instead of blowing them to the gutters, most of it goes into the yard and it's on top of the grass. It's almost worse than not doing anything. So I hope that they're planning on one of those. And the 2 times it's in the contract now?
They've been in here once. They're gonna be back the first week of March.
They did it a couple of weeks ago, right?
And
You
they'll be back
kidding?
the first week of March.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. 2 weeks ago in my yard, I got 2 30-gallon bags of leaves off my yard.
Well, it may have been 3 weeks, but I know they've done it
They
recently.
did it in early February, yes.
Oh, they didn't do my yard in early February.
It is
Well,
mine.
This is February the 24th. I didn't do it the last weekend and I did it the 2 weekends before there. And I got that first weekend, I got 2 30-gallon bags of leaves out of my yard. I think all they're doing is blowing them in the yard off the
I'll
sidewalk.
check with them because I had several people comment about how the leaves were picked up. And then I had several people complain about how they were blowing and making noise and picking up the leaves. So I just know that they'll be back in on the first week of
And
March.
walking the dog every 3 years, I notice other people's yards, and I haven't seen any indication where the yards have been cleared at all. Sounds like to me they're just blowing the leaves up in the yard then.
They're only picking up the leaves once.
This is at least Sanctuary Point. Maybe Lanny, they're doing something. You know,
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, it depends a lot on the worker, how they attack it. It could be done well in one area, a couple of workers in another area. You know, it can depend on who's actually doing it, you know.
Sounds to me like we have recalcitrant trees. Lanny,
Yeah, they certainly don't usually pick up, but there was a large group of what appeared to be extra crew coming around. It wasn't my usual lawn mowing day. And they were blowing up big piles and picking them up, and that I observed not only in our community, but some others, but I didn't happen to personally see them in Sanctuary.
I have not personally seen any more, and I'm out about 3 times a day, any crew doing any blowing and picking up in Sanctuary Point. And that's where basically I do my walking pretty much all in Sanctuary Point. So looks like to me, maybe they've done some neighborhoods and not all of them yet.
well, these trees are maturing now at about 20-some years old. And they're larger, probably twice as large as they were a decade ago. So I'm sure it's creating more of a problem now with leaves than ever before. So I would predict that we're going to have more concern and complaints about these trees than less. So as we look at the landscaping contract down the road, we may want to address that. But that is neither here nor there at this point, so let's move along. And let's go to the tennis report, Lanny.
Yes, the tennis committee is chaired by Rick Sanders and met outdoors on February 19th. As of February 4th, tennis membership has increased from 338 to 347 members. 31% of members are homeowners. Upcoming events include the Fed Cup, Davis Cup mixed doubles round robin tomorrow afternoon, 2 FGCU scholarship fundraisers, the Member Staff Challenge, and the Pro-Am tournament. The North Naples Open tournament that will this year include NTRP divisions is on March 6th through 15th. A tennis warm-up and stretch workshop is scheduled or will be scheduled for March, as well as a free beginner clinic for homeowners. The organizers for the Pop Tennis are still looking for discounted paddles, and they have no request from the board at this time.
Who are the organizers for Pop Tennis?
I'm sorry, I don't remember his name.
Jim Harper, maybe?
Yes, that's correct, Jim Harper.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Any questions about tennis? Okay, let's go to old business. Do we have any old business? If not, we'll move to new business. Mark, I guess we'll turn this over.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Okay, Mark, we'll turn land by Court 12, possible parking and other stuff maybe. Mark, why don't you introduce that?
I'll just say that if you're on the condos and you're by 41, there's a road that goes between 41 and the condos, right along the fence line. If you're on the parking lot and court side, there's a berm with a bunch of landscaping in it. In looking at that area, doing an aerial look and also walking it, it shows from the easement line of the fence to Court 12, there's about 50 feet, and it runs the length of Court 12 out to the parking lot. We are looking at that area and possibility of creating maybe 10 to 15 more parking spots so that we would have more parking for people to utilize the pool or that end of the parking lot for access to tennis. The only thing I'm going to do is contact my engineering firm to ask them at no cost whether or not we have any issues with the county from a setback standpoint. If there is any setback standpoints and they wouldn't allow us to put in something there, then it's moot. However, if they say that there's nothing that would stop us from doing that, I'll go ahead and get a quote from the engineering company to do a site development amendment application to the county and see whether or not we could take out that landscaping and put in a parking lot. You can always, for those people on Court 12, if they were worried about noise, we also have the noise abatement panels, which you'll all be able to look at and understand when the new Court 3 goes up for pickleball. So, but we can also put landscaping along the 41 fence line, such as there is over on the condominium side. This would allow us a greater use of land area. It could be a multi-purpose area down the road. It's just an opportunity for us to have use of some land that, because we have almost none to use for any other reason. And I know that parking, especially this time of year, and with Court 3 and pickleball going in, parking is a premium. So I'm just going to do some investigation on this at no cost. I'll probably be bringing back more information to you in the upcoming board meetings.
Mark?
This is of particular interest since the county is always looking for parking whenever you introduce a new amenity. For instance, when we talked about putting the third pickleball court in, the county wanted to know about parking. And that would introduce more people in on our property and they want to know about parking. So we were able to explain to them that we had sufficient parking without creating new parking. But down the road, if we, and who knows what that might be, but if we create another amenity, we will have parking available, which will be very valuable in proposing any new project. I have a couple questions, Lanny, then Brownie.
Getting rid of green space and changing it into blacktop seems to me unlikely that the county will permit, but we'll see what they say. But I'm wondering, have we considered doing something along Sterling Oaks Boulevard in terms of marking spaces so it's clear to people that parking is permitted there? You know, occasionally people are parking there, but many people don't realize that it is permitted there.
I would be reluctant personally to mark out any spaces because I think it would invite people to park there when they may not need to park there. So until we get a major problem, my recommendation would be not to invite them to do that at this point.
Why would anyone want to park there rather than in the parking lot?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
No,
They're-
it's only for overflow. You know,
Right,
people
right.
have told me that they've waited around for 8 o'clock people to leave. So they're late to tennis because they didn't know they could park out on the boulevard before
Right.
people have left, so that they
Right.
needed to park. But they didn't know they were allowed to.
My point is, if you put parking lines out there, you will invite people to park there at any time, whether it's an overcrowding issue or not. And then you have a congestion issue on a main boulevard. That's all I'm saying. Brownie,
Mark, I know it's only one space, but could we always park the truck down in the work area instead of, because I see it in the lot down at the end quite often. Our Sterling Oaks truck, to keep it in the work area, you know, where the sheds are, because that does take
If I
up a
did that,
place.
I'd have to park one of my employees' cars in the parking lot. Because
I didn't
can't
say the
fit-
employee's car. I said, oh, you mean the employees parked down there? Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. Okay. So you don't have room for it and the employees then?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got 4 employees.
Okay. I didn't. I was
unless
just,
there are any objections to this concept, we'll have Mark go ahead and call the engineers in and do some preliminary inquiries. Okay, let's move along to pickleball guest policy. Who is covering this one?
You indicated that you had a report from the pickleball committee. Do they have anything to say on this? You
Let me
haven't
check.
shared that with us.
Yeah, the document is there, Paul. There's a change in the rule that you'll see in red.
I have trouble with the change.
Okay, let me find it here.
I had it too,
Well,
but
I was asking for something different. Paul, you said you had minutes from them, and I was
Yes.
interested in knowing what they had to say.
Okay.
I printed it out. I printed it
The-
out.
Okay, here's the report from the project team, who's doing an excellent job, by the way, very diligent, and they take their work very seriously, and they brought much order to this situation as pickleball has grown and matured. They have reviewed and discussed court issue reports and what do we need to do to monitor moving forward. Went over reports, looked at guest reservation reports, some questions about whether it is pulling data correctly. We'll speak to Cezanne. We'll not use this report until we have a better understanding. Spoke with Cezanne after the meeting. Sue will summarize all reports other than guest report. I probably should ask you, Cezanne, you were part of this meeting?
Sure. So no, I wasn't a part of the meeting, but I've been helping Kathy and Sue use the reservation system we have on the website to kind of understand the court utilization and the guests that they're seeing. So I think we're on two different subjects. Really, Laney's referring to the document that was released at the beginning of the season where the pickleball project team requested that no guests of members be able to join in the open play, that members were fulfilling these times. And they wanted our members to be able to utilize these open play. That's not something that they discussed at this meeting. That's just something that they've been doing. So Laney's asking that we amend our rules and regulations to approve this request ongoing. My suggestion would be to somehow not put dates like January 1st through the end of March. Sometimes our season goes through the end of April, depending on when Easter falls. So that might need to change from year to year, but maybe revise the rules and regulations to where as you know, the pickleball project team seems fit for open play.
Okay, discussion.
Well, let me make the,
Paul,
let me make the
I had
motion
my hand
first.
up. Well,
hang on. Let me get it. Do
before
we
you,
have a document in front of us with the pickleball guest policy?
Laney
yes,
emailed you one the other day.
it is given to us. I printed it out and I can't find it. Okay, but yes, we do. It's somewhere in your emails.
I can forward it to everybody again if you'd like.
But before we take the motion, I wanted to clarify something. Okay.
Well, I'm not sure we have any motion on the floor. We haven't
Lanny's
even
ready to
Well,
do
Lanny
one.
was trying to make one and I wanted to
wanted to stop
talk
her.
about it. Yeah, but even because the problem I have is the definition of a guest. There's outside guest. There's someone who's a renter. Is a renter a guest? And then if I have my son down here or my grandson, are they a guest? You're saying they can't play pickleball? So to me, I would be in favor of not having local guests, in other words, from other areas, the guests, not family members. But then I think that a visiting family member shouldn't be excluded. And then assuming that a renter picks up the amenities, a renter would still be able to play and technically they're a guest. So I think we need to define what we mean by guests.
Sure.
and
So
decide what-
in our rules and regulations, we have a definition for guest. It's in our definition section. So it's individuals that are not described above, which include homeowner, approved tenant, a tennis member, a social member, an immediate family. So like your son would be able to play with you.
Okay,
Clubhouse member wouldn't fall into this because they couldn't use pickleball anyways, but we do have a definition for guest.
so the word guest is just non-family
It's
outside
as
members who are
Cezanne
not
spelled
renters.
out. No,
who are
it's
not
very,
renters.
it's
And
very
what-
specific as
Yeah.
Cezanne spelled out.
Okay,
And that's on page 2 of our rules and of our consolidated rules and regulations that are right on our website.
Yeah, so they just don't want Mr. Smith to be able to bring in Bob from Audubon to come in and play only during open play. So this is their very, very busy time when members are utilizing the pickleball courts. But if
Okay.
Mr. Smith wants to bring in Bob from Audubon at 3:00 in the afternoon when there's not open play, that's permitted. They just
So
don't
that-
want guests during open
that answers
play
my
during
concern.
prime
then.
time.
No problem.
Let's
So
go
we're
to
talking
Chap,
about
then
outside, we're
Lindia.
talking about outside guests. So I'm willing to listen to Lanny's motion.
Yeah.
Let's go to Lindia, and then we'll vote and see if we can let Lanny speak.
My question is, when this outside member comes in, this outside person, do they have to have the same requirement as the tennis that they have to be playing with the person who is entitled to be on the court during season?
Yes, they're supposed
Yes.
to, everybody is supposed to make a reservation on their pickleball reservation system, and they really are using it. And you have to indicate your guest names on there. So we can run a report to make sure that Mr. Smith is only playing his allotted guest time. So then we can tell him he needs to buy a membership if he overplays that. So that's what the pickleball project team is helping with.
Okay,
They're doing a very good job with that.
Yeah.
There was concern earlier about people coming in and playing rather than going to Veterans Park would just drop over here because it's a decent facility and we have friends there, so let's play there. So they've done a nice job of monitoring that issue and that concern, and I'm very happy with the work that they're doing.
Now, I just got an email from Sue Lee, must be watching this, and she's saying this wasn't really a rule change. It was a way for us to limit the number of people during COVID. So I'm not sure if they're going to be requesting this next year. So I don't know if we want to amend the rules and regulations entirely for further years. They might wish something different for 2022 open play.
Well, I think that's, this blends in with all our issues with tennis, and it has a certain parallel there, and the board is very concerned about guests approaching our amenities.
Yes.
So I think that's an issue for the board to decide. And right now, we're very happy with the way things are going. So Lanny, you had a question?
Get a motion. Lanny had a motion.
Lanny,
Yeah,
did you request the
make a
floor?
motion. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Wait
I
a minute.
move-
Is that okay, Brownie?
Yeah, I mean, now
Okay.
that I know what guests are, that's fine. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to amend the Sterling Oaks guest rule number 1 to include the statement. Additionally, guests are not permitted to play pickleball during open play during prime season as defined by the pickleball project team.
I second.
Got a second. Any further discussion?
My reason for wanting to do this is that this altered our rules. And I think it's important that project teams don't change our community rules without going through the board and having them approved by the board. If they want to change it next year, they ask us to change it, and we'll probably be willing to do so. But I think it's really important that these different groups don't see themselves as distinct and separate from the rules when this rule is in our consolidated rule.
I concur with you, and I'm sure that these smaller teams aren't cognizant of all our rules and regulations either. And I think they're making their best effort to maintain
Well,
control.
I just
So I
want to fix it.
right, and I concur with what you're saying. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, private instructors. Lanny, is that yours?
Well, I'd like to do a candidate forum first, if that's okay.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I wanted to bring up candidate forum first, if that's okay.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
Okay. As you know, last year we did not have a candidate forum because all seats were elected without any opposition. But prior to that, the previous couple of years, I worked with the communications committee to develop a candidate forum so that homeowners had more information to use to select their board members. Under the current circumstances and the fact that nothing's happened yet, I would like to recommend that I work with the communications committee to revise questions that we used in 2019 to make them appropriate for this year. Send those questions to all the candidates and ask the candidates to record a Zoom or YouTube or whatever Cezanne works out best response to those questions. And then once she has, and then give them a time frame. And then once she has the responses from each of the candidates that would then, a link would be placed on the website so that all homeowners could see those responses. And that would be this year's version of a candidate forum.
Hey, Terry?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit overblown, a little bit overcomplicated. In the past, when I ran, I was opposed, so therefore there was a questionnaire. And I think the questionnaire could be sent out and just sent back in and done in print form rather than going through Zoom and having to do a link and everything else. I don't think people want to see that. I think they'd just rather have a letter saying, okay, this is what I stand for. These are the questions that I ask, and this is how I answer them. That should be more than enough.
Well, in the past, we did it live. I think maybe you weren't available the day that the candidate forum was held, but in the past, it was a live meeting.
No, that's not true. I was at the live session as well.
Okay,
So I was at that session as well.
okay. Well,
Prior
then,
to that, but excuse me, do have the floor. I know it's hard for you to understand that, but I do. The bottom line is that the questionnaire was sent out and you were given written responses to give, and then you had the forum afterwards. Now, I don't know if we have enough time for all of that, but if we do, that's fine.
I'm okay with
Mark,
this written.
how many people are involved in,
There's 6 people. There's 2 and it includes you and Chap. There's 6 candidates, including you and Chap.
It
okay,
concerns
Yeah.
There's
about
4 other
88
people.
88 people in one voting group, about 96 in another voting group, and another 80
Oh,
some in
okay.
another voting group.
They're all
Wow.
about 100. Yeah.
Wildcat, Wildcat and Sanctuary, Deer Creek Preserve and Willow Bend are not, and other portions of the
Reserve.
condos are not involved.
And there's
in
no
the-
general one either with the 700. Yeah.
No,
Lanny,
What about giving candidates the option of doing it either in writing or via video?
Yeah, that would be good. If a person wants to do a video, we should allow them to do that, but not require it.
Lanny,
That's fine.
And if they're interested in winning, they probably want to do the video. It'd probably be good to do it. But let them choose whether or not they want to do it.
okay, give me a
Yeah,
little
right
more
now,
direction.
communication- I'm sorry.
I'd like to hear from the other board members. Give us some direction. Michael,
I'm thinking that if they're going to do a video, they probably should do it in writing as well.
Oh, I think everybody should do writing. Okay, that everybody should do the 1-page biography.
Well, they have done that. And those are already posted, but they haven't responded to questions.
Right.
So what's
Oh,
on the
okay.
table is I would work with Communications Committee to revise the questions that we used in 2019 to make them current, have them sent to all the candidates, give the candidates a date that they need to respond in writing, and give them the option of working with Cezanne to do some sort of video. And then everything would be released, at a particular date.
Lanny, now you said they've been posted. I assume they were sent out with the ballots. But if you're in an area where, like I am, where we're not voting, I still would like to see the candidates' bios, even though I'm not in the area.
You've
Particularly
gotten
the-
that. It came with the
Where is it?
email. You came with the email about the annual meeting that Cezanne sent, where it lists the candidates. If you click on the candidate name, you'll get their bio.
Oh, you do? Okay, I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah. But that's all we have.
India,
Yeah, so what's the advantage of a video?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking, yes.
Well, to me, it's the best equivalent we can give right now to the in-person meeting that we used to do. Certainly some people don't know names and faces of everyone. So for a candidate to be able to show their face so that people may realize, oh yeah, I know who that is. I've had positive interactions with that person, gives them that opportunity. I don't believe any of the candidates included a photo with their bio. So this would be a way to have as much information and transparency as possible.
Yeah,
So
if I were in a, yeah,
so the in-person was when people were interested enough to come to the clubhouse to see them and talk to them in person, right?
Correct.
And this video would go to everyone?
Well, it would be available for everyone. It would be posted just like the bios are.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Yeah. That's what I'm proposing. I mean, nothing's
Uh,
carved in stone.
Let me ask Mark a question, then we'll go to chat. Do we know how many people are viewing today?
I honestly don't know how to specifically.
I can look. Hold on one second.
See that.
I also know, Paul, that many
7.
people tell me they watch it later. They don't watch it
I
live
have
necessarily.
7 people on right now. And one of those is
Okay.
Nicole, so that's 6.
Chat,
I have no problem answering some questions. If that's what everyone wants to do. If I have the option of either doing or not doing a video, that's fine, because I wouldn't do one.
Okay. That's the current proposal that's on the table.
That's
okay.
fine with me.
We have anyone that is not in agreement with that?
Yeah, I don't think we should have a video.
Okay. Well,
I
you want
don't-
to put that, why don't you put that in form of a motion? We'll vote on it and then we'll
Okay.
carry on.
I move that I work with the Communications Committee to revise the 2019 candidate forum questions to make them appropriate for 2021. Have those questions sent to each candidate for the board. Ask each candidate to respond in writing within, say, 5 days. And give them the opportunity to create a video, an optional video response, also working with Cezanne, and then have links to those written documents and or videos posted on the website for anyone to view.
I know.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Michael seconds it. Barring any further discussion, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 All who oppose, raise your hand and say nay.
Nay.
Nay,
Nay.
nay, nay, Terry. Okay, motion carries. Let's go on to private instructors.
I have a question before we do that. We're still on elections. Maybe we should share with everybody what the plan is to replace Jack McBurney.
Okay,
See,
that's a good
no longer on the
point.
board.
Well, the plan, there is no plan. I guess that's for discussion. Today, you can tell me what you all want to do. At the EC meeting, we talked about the fact that there are 2 candidates for the former McBurney seat. One is John Mulligan that lives in the area. Currently, he's on the Finance Committee. He's a longtime resident here. The other is Len Kilpatrick, another longtime resident in the area. They're both interested in running for that seat. It occurred to us at the EC meeting that it may behoove us not to appoint anyone at this particular time, since the annual meeting is just down the road, a few weeks away. And thinking that it might be better for the new board to make that decision rather than we, the old board, with several members potentially leaving, it might be best for the new board to make that decision. And it would be an appointment. So it's not a matter of running or casting votes in the neighborhoods for this position. So you all tell me what you think.
Well, to me, it's pretty simple. It's either the current board does it now or the new board does it a month from now, right?
Right.
I think the new board should do it a month from now.
Michael, what do you think?
I agree. It's only a month.
John?
I agree. I think we should wait the month.
Lanny?
I don't understand. Why isn't, since that seat is now empty, why isn't there an election?
Because his
For-
term expires a
Okay.
year from this March.
Well, let me answer that, Lanny. I wrote an email to Mark and Paul the day that Jack resigned. And it turns out then that was 54 days. The bylaws say it has to go out 60 days. So we
Ah.
missed the cutoff by 6 days to have the election.
Okay,
Because after I wrote that email, Paul and Mark, I checked it and I was thinking it had enough time, but technically we didn't. It was 6 days short. So that's the answer to that, Lanny. Or
Okay.
I would have hoped that we could have slipped it in and had the election anyway, but okay.
Yeah, a good question and a technicality, but a good question.
okay. Then I'm interested in sending the candidate questions to those two candidates to help the new board decide what to do about that seat. If that's, and those questions, I mean, those answers would be available
Yeah.
just to the new board members.
Yeah, I wouldn't post them. No, just,
Okay.
Yeah.
What are those names again, Paul?
John Mulligan
And Fitzpatrick or
and Len
Gil-
Kilpatrick.
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 Kilpatrick, yeah.
Len Kilpatrick.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone if whatever questions we come up with, we send to those people too?
Not
And ask them
exactly,
to give us a bio?
no. These people, even though they're to be appointed by the board, are going to represent whatever community they come from. So I don't understand why their bios have to be sent directly to the board and not to the other, and not accessible to their own homeowners. I mean, I just don't, it just doesn't seem practical to me. They
Well,
should,
you can send them to the homeowners too, but the
I-
board is ultimately going to make the decision.
yeah, that's correct. That's correct. But there may be some people that want to talk to board members and make opinions known, and that's up to them.
And to Terry's point, that's exactly why I was opposed to the videos being on the website for everybody. Frankly, it's not anybody's business who's running in the condos except the condo people, Sweetwater Bay 1 through 5. And the same when you have your neighborhood. I don't see why it's going to the board website for a video. I don't get that.
I agree.
Lanny,
Lindy,
Go to those people that are.
Lanny, go ahead. You have the floor.
Linda, the reason why I suggested that was trying to emulate the form that we had before. When we had the forums, everyone was in the audience, no matter which candidates were speaking. So we didn't separate them. It's not that I think that in particular the condo candidates should be known by the other people. It was just emulating the community-wide access that we had before.
I see where you're doing it, and I can understand it. I just think there's a little line there that bothers me a little bit, but whatever.
Brownie, go ahead.
well, I agree with Lanny. I think it's important, even if you represent Sanctuary Point, for the people in Deer Creek to know who the board members are and know a little bit about them. So, I mean, I think it's good to let everybody know about the board members and who's running, even if you're not voting for them. Just one of them's going to win. You want to know who's on the board and a little bit about them.
Right, except Brownie, when the condo people get their letter to vote from, the only people who get that letter with their bio are the condo people. The whole community doesn't get that.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay.
Michael, you
Oh,
had
no,
your
actually
hand
they
up.
do. No, Linda, actually they do, because I'm sitting here looking at it. I did get it with the names. I can click on them and read the bios. So I do have them, Lenny.
Okay, Michael
And
has
I-
the
And I'm
floor.
not a voter, so I do get them.
I think all
This year.
Sterling Oaks community needs to know who all the board members are and their bios. The decisions these board members make affect everybody for the most part.
But anyway, Linda, the non-voters have already got the bios, because I'm a non-voter and I have them.
All right, do we have a motion on the floor?
No, we were just
Okay, then we're
discussing.
just, outside of that, we're just rambling. So let's move along.
I have one other specific question. As I wanted to know, are there any topics that any board member would like included in this set of questions for candidates? There was something about strategic planning, so I definitely will be focusing on that. But if there was something that anyone particularly wanted to hear about, I wanted to know. If you think of something, let me know. Thank you.
Fair enough. Okay, let's go to private instructors.
What's the motion?
There is no motion.
Oh, okay.
I've left what I had. I am aware that we have a number of different types of classes being taught here by people who may or may not be residents, may or may not be charging, and look to see what kind of rules we have about those people. And to the best that I can find out, we don't have any rules. And I thought that we might consider developing some guidance, at least with the parameter that these outside instructors are registered with the office, that they probably ought to be providing some sort of proof of insurance, and something about their schedule. Certainly somebody who is using our pickleball courts, for example, 10 hours a week, charging and gaining money without paying us anything, maybe is too much. An occasional hour maybe is okay, but I thought maybe this was something that the pickleball project committee, the fitness project team, and I don't know if it applies to bocce at all, but the bocce project team could pull together for the board if we put our heads together. And I wanted to get some input from the board on that.
Linda, let's hear from you.
So past practice has been that in the case like of Bob Bonamici, who offered to give bridge lessons here, and we paid him, he was told he couldn't do it under those circumstances. So I would say the same rule applies.
Well, we have for a long time permitted private personal trainers in the fitness center, I know. Well, but since we don't have a rule, I mean, if that's what we think the rule should be, we should make it and then enforce it. But right now, we haven't had them much lately, to the best of my knowledge, because of COVID. But I know before that, I saw a couple of different private fitness trainers in the fitness center. And, there are business cards floating around about a pickleball teacher. Jack said he didn't know about it. When I try to communicate with the man, he doesn't respond to me. So I don't know what the story is there exactly. But until we have a rule, he's not breaking it.
We're going to go to Cezanne, then Terry. I'm going to make a comment first. I appreciate your comments, because if we do have regular instructors out there, we need to be protected liability wise. We had an incident with a tennis player not long ago that created a lot of concern for everybody. So we want to be sure that the association is protected and that we are uniform in our rules and regulations. So I appreciate your concern. Cezanne, do you have anything to offer before we go to Terry?
My only comment was Mr. Bonamici was a member here. Our declarations before, but I think they've been amended since then, stated that we couldn't hire or we couldn't pay our members. So that's why Mr. Bonamici couldn't get funds from Sterling Oaks. We couldn't hire our members for services. But like what Lainey's saying, there's a lady, Lindsay, I believe was her name, is a fitness instructor that many people have used for years here, and they get hired from members to come here and help train in the fitness center. So it's different than Sterling Oaks hiring a member to give lessons versus what Lainey, I think, is talking about when people are coming here using our facilities to get private lessons. That's it. design.
And I think, by the way, that instructor resides in Sterling Oaks.
Lindsay?
No,
I
no.
don't think so.
Lindsay
the-
does not, however, I
The
think the
pickleball
person you're
instructor.
thinking.
Oh, the pickleball instructor, I think he does.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Terry, and then let's see if we can pull the discussion together.
Yeah, Paul, I go back to your comment, which is right to the point. Because I have had some experience doing some teaching, and the biggest problem is liability. If we're going to allow any private instructor to be on premise, they have to be insured for the group that they are being with during the period of time that they carry on their instruction. If we allow anything else but that, we are leaving ourselves open to litigation. You're open to litigation anyway, but the reality is that if we're going to do something formally, we should require that these people be liable, that they have liability insurance, so that if somebody gets hurt within their province, that we as a club are indemnified.
Right, otherwise we're inviting a hazard. Okay, so let's go to Brownie, then
Brings up a-
Chap, and then we'll summarize.
Brings a point. I tend to agree. My question, Lanny, is the private tennis instructors, do we check that they have liability?
Yes,
Do
they
we-
have. Yes, they have it.
Yes.
Brownie, they
Well-
both have it, and Paul actually is certified, and his
Okay.
certification requires
Okay, that's fine. I just,
his liability, and the also.
that's enough. That's fine. The answer's
Yeah, but
yes.
you also
Okay.
have a second. you have
Chap,
a
let's go
second
to
group,
you.
the youth
Well, I'll
group
summarize
staying.
it by making a motion. Well, I don't know how to word the motion, but I think
You
what we
want
should
to,
do,
would you like to hear from Mark first?
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
A couple of things. One is that I'm not quite sure whether or not our declarations have some indemnification inherent in them as to people who may be instructing somebody else on property or use of the property, especially if they are a resident and they're giving instruction to their friend, or if they're a non-resident and they are here as a guest, which we know that has happened, where somebody says, I'm going to invite as my guest this person to help me swim or lift weights. Are they actually a guest of the resident, and therefore the club is indemnified? Now, if we have somebody who's soliciting the membership and puts out a bulletin board, Tom, I'm the fitness instructor, you want to hire me at $50 a class. Now we have to go after Tom to make sure that what he's doing, but solicitation of the membership is not allowed, first of all. So what we're hearing is a lot of, I want to say uncorroborated sort of evidence that may or may not be specific to, I'm inviting my friends or people who want to use a specific amenity. I will help them. We don't know what kind of arrangement that they have. The other thing is that, once again, much like some of the uses, how are we going to police it and accurately make sure that it is being maintained? If we're here it by word of mouth, I mean, I can understand if somebody is putting out a card and soliciting the membership, then we definitely need to make sure that person is aware that solicitation of the membership. I see you, Paul. Yeah, I think that we probably need to find out from those individuals, but I would like to contact Jason and find out what his specific opinion is on how we would monitor or either a resident versus a non-resident individual who happens to be on property giving instruction, whether it's for tennis, fitness, aerobics, dance. Now here, when if you remember, Jack McBurney and his wife were doing the yoga last year. We demanded that that instructor fully disclose license, insurance, and all, and they had to do that in order to take care of those yoga classes, which they did. On the other side, if you have an individual, we just have to make sure that if they are soliciting the membership and giving classes to the membership, possibly that we have to find out if they are licensed and insured. But I'd like to find out from Jason what the actual verbiage is and how we make sure that we're not only covering ourselves, but we're not saying something to the individuals who are asking for the lessons and saying, wait a minute, this is a friend of mine, a guest of mine. Whatever deal I have with them is my own business, not the clubs, even though they're on club property. So I think we just have to find out what that line is.
Okay, we're going to go to Chap, then Terry, and if they don't offer a conclusion to this discussion, I will. So
Well,
Chap,
here's my conclusion. The issue here is liability. And I think what we should do right now is just, and hear me out on this, I think we should prohibit outside instructors from using our facilities to give lessons until the board can come up with a policy to deal with this situation. That's what I think we should do.
okay, Terry,
Well, I agree with Chap. I'll take it one step further. The biggest test of anything regarding this is whether you get paid. If somebody's being paid to give instructions in whatever field that they choose to on our premises with our using our facilities, that defines the relationship and therefore requires liability insurance. And then I think it's up to our lawyer to tell us what is the amount of liability necessary for somebody to qualify to do that.
okay, let me summarize it this way, with the caveat that Chap offers and that Terry offers. Lanny, are you willing to work with the project teams and with Jason to come up with a recommendation for the next board meeting on having to do with instructors?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and Chap and Terry, is that good with you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's move that then to the next meeting, and we all understand the issues, particularly the liability and how it bumps up against the rest of our rules and regulations.
And Mark, you're gonna handle talking with Jason and feed that back to me?
I will go ahead and write Jason, and then I will let, yes, you and the board pretty much know what his opinion is on the on instructors, and probably instructors at large.
Right.
Regardless of whether or not they are inside or outside.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yes.
matter.
Right, and Lanny will work with the pickleball team, and of course, she's on the tennis liaison, so we're good there. The
John,
bocce
is
thing,
there any issue for bocce on this? John, is there any reason to work with bocce people on this?
I have no idea. I guess you have to talk to Tom on that.
Well, Lindy is our
I've
in-house
heard
bocce
of no
instructor.
instruction at bocce.
Say again?
I've heard of no instruction at bocce.
Okay.
well, touch base with Tom Reese anyway. He knows everything there is to know about bocce, amongst other things.
Okay.
So,
I could do some more.
okay, so COVID management plan. Let's go reports by Chap and Lanny. So
Well-
let's hear from Chap first.
I don't know the right order, but in order to get a discussion going on this, I'm going to make a motion. And here's my motion. I move that we open the dining room and bar area to the extent allowable by the state of Florida as soon as Mark and Nicole can make it happen, that we open the dining room for multi-purpose use to the extent allowable by the state of Florida immediately. And that we open the multi-purpose room to the extent allowable by the state of Florida immediately. That's my motion.
Okay, do I
Second.
have a second?
Second.
Terry seconds. Mark, tell us, based on those motions, your feeling, because my understanding is Chap is going to rely on you and Nicole. So give us an insight into your perspective.
Before you do that, Paul, I'll give you some information. I spent quite a bit of time talking to the county, to the county commissioners, to the county commission, to the county ordinance enforcement division, and to the state of Florida. And what I have concluded is the county in these matters follows what the state of Florida tells them is allowable and not allowable. And the state of Florida's current guidelines are restaurants can operate at full capacity with limited social distancing protocols, whatever that means. And bars should operate at full capacity with limited social distancing protocols. That's it. And our rules are infinitely more restrictive than what the state of Florida is allowing us to do.
And based on your motions, you gave Mark and Nicole great leeway in interpreting when the right time is. So I'd like to hear from Mark.
By that, I didn't mean COVID. What I meant was tomorrow. But if Mark can't do it for another week or two, simply from the logistics of staffing and getting the food ordered, that's when it'd go into effect.
Okay, Mark.
Chap's motion has 3 items in it. One is food and beverage and use of the dining room and bar for food and beverage operations. Second was for the use of the dining room for multi-purpose operations, not including food and beverage. And the third was the multi-purpose room to be used for multi-purpose use.
That's correct.
I would say that, you know, from my standpoint and Nicole's standpoint, our bailiwick would surround the food and beverage operation, providing service and food to the to that dining and bar area. And currently, at this point in time, Nicole and I are not probably interested in opening up the dining room and bar simply because the general membership, except for a few, are not interested in eating in an inside environment. They enjoy the outside environment. However, we know that as time goes by and it gets to be 85, 90 plus with humidity, that individuals, especially if things have become relaxed and the mask mandate has been repealed by the county commissioners in April, and we get into April, May, the people are going to want to eat indoors. They're not going to want to eat outdoors. Conversely, we feel that by the end of March, we should be able to do some limited food and beverage operations inside if and only if we have enough people that are interested in doing this. We cannot open up the food and beverage operations upstairs and run it downstairs at the same time with a staffing that we have. So we want to make sure that if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. But we also want to know that we've got the support from the patrons to do it in the first place. So that's one. To utilize the upstairs dining room for cards, for mahjong, for Mexican train in a socially distanced environment, that is fine with us. We do not have an issue with that as long as, because we have the tables spaced, And we found that most of the people who are interested in playing, and Linda, you can back me up on this, is that they're cognizant of the social distancing, wearing masks, as you said, down at Tarpon Cove. We have not gotten an enormous human cry for it. We have had requests as to when it would happen. Same with downstairs in the multipurpose room. The only thing about the multipurpose room that I feel is it's hard for staff to police it. It is more of a come and go as you want to. I can say that if it does open up for multipurpose use, then there are going to be other activities that people would want to engage in downstairs besides mahjong and card playing, etc., because it has other uses available to it, such as ping pong or an art league and other items, meetings, etc. So the board, I think, needs to give me some guidance on that from the food and beverage standpoint. However, we're willing, ready, and able to do what we can to satisfy the needs of the community when they ask us to. Currently, we have not been inundated with a large amount of people asking to eat inside at this time. We have gotten some requests from groups. Jim Moxley and his group would like to eat inside once everybody's got double vaccine, they're socially distanced, and that's probably going to be, they said, sometime in the mid-March to later March timeframe.
Chat.
This is just a reminder to everyone, it's got nothing to do with the decision. We've budgeted for a full opening. So you don't have to worry about the money part of this. The second thing is we're never going to know the demand until we open it up. We can't base our decision to open it up on how many people we think are going to show up. I mean, we have denied our members full use of our facilities for over a year. We are way in excess of what we're required to do by the state of Florida. I say it's time to move on.
Well, I, for one, won't apologize for that. I think we did.
I'm not apologizing for it.
Well,
I think that was a good decision, but when are we going to open?
I do too. And we didn't create the pandemic. It happened to us. And I think we've dealt with it. And at any rate, I'm concerned also. Personally, I think we're within a couple of weeks. I don't think we're ready for it tomorrow, but I think within a 2 to 3 week period, I think we're there. I think most people will have had the second vaccination.
What's your trigger point? Paul, what's your trigger point? I can guarantee you the rate it's going, I'm not going to be vaccinated in 2 or 3 weeks.
How many people on the board have been vaccinated?
Once or twice?
I have my first one.
Both. I've had both.
First.
I keep trying.
Okay. So
I just want to know what the trigger point is.
I guess my point is within 2 to 3 weeks, I think many people will have gotten at least their first vaccine, if not their second. And I think that would be the time to talk about it rather than tomorrow for 2 reasons. Number one, we'll have more people vaccinated. Number two, based on what Mark is saying, I think that's when people will start moving inside or making the request to move inside. I think right now the outside dining is working. And I'm anxious to open up also. I'm not sure of the exact timing. So I'd like to hear from some others. Let's go to Linda, then Lanny, then Terry.
I think we should open the dining room for multi-purpose use. That's the first thing I think.
Okay, Lanny?
Well, I'd like to give my report, if that's okay. You all have a copy of this, but I'd like to highlight that the CHAP is referring to Florida regulations, not Florida public health recommendations.
Okay,
And
let me interrupt you.
I'm referring to what the governor says.
Let me say this, we have actually 3 motions on the floor. So before you give your report, I want to make sure that we move toward the consummation of the motion. So you
Well,
may,
I think this information is critical to deciding whether we support those motions.
okay, let me go to Terry, then I'll come back to you.
Okay,
Well, I think it's clear that food and beverage will stay closed because there's no interest at this point. There won't be, and I agree fully with Chap. You won't have any interest in food and beverage until you do open it up. And then you'll see if there is some interest that's going to happen. We have taken a financial hit as well as a pandemic hit over the course of the year in food and beverage more than any other item on our entire budget, more than normal. And that will continue until we open up.
Well, that's a little
Okay,
back, that's a little backwards, Terry.
I know it,
The more we open, the more we lose, but we budgeted to lose.
right. But if we don't open, we still lose.
we won't lose as much.
We won't lose as much, but that's irrelevant.
That's irrelevant.
okay, Lanny, let's go to you.
Okay, again, I want to start out with what Chap is talking about, as he said, is what the governor is saying. However, the governor's health department, which he has not stated any position against, is still saying that everyone should be wearing face masks if social distancing is not possible. Everyone should refrain from gathering in groups of more than 10. That closed spaces should be avoided.
I agree.
I want to point out some good news, that as we've mentioned, many people have gotten vaccines, that in contrast to last month, the infection rates have been lower, but we are still in the dangerous red zone. We have not been in the red zone for the recommended 14 days that would indicate an appropriate loosening of restrictions, and deaths have increased. Early studies are suggesting that vaccine prevention, that vaccines may prevent infection in addition to preventing severe disease, but it's not yet conclusive. The bad news, however, is that experts are warning that the next 6 to 12 weeks may be the worst that the US has seen due to the variants that are more contagious and probably more deadly. These are more prominent in Florida than any other state in Maryland. Other new bad news is long-term morbidity is much more common than we had previously expected. A full 30% of those with mild infections are still reporting symptoms for over 9 months. So this is not just a short-term illness, this is a chronic condition for a large number of people. Nationally, the CDC and Florida is supporting double masking whenever people are participating in indoor activities. To the best of my knowledge, Collier County still is mandating masks for indoor activities other than eating. Of course, getting appointments is frustrating. The other bad news is transmission has now been documented with very short-term exposures. We no longer think it takes 15 minutes, especially around people who are asymptomatic. Experts are recommending that precautions are going to be needed for many more months. We're not going to achieve herd immunity anytime soon. At this point, our average rates in Collier and Lee County remain above an average of 5%. Day before yesterday, Collier was 9% positive, meaning that virtually 1 out of every 10 people you're exposed to is infected. In contrast to CHAP's recommendations, that I recommend that we plan to permit indoor activities at 25% capacity as soon as both Collier and Lee County infection rates are at 5% for 14 days in a row. These are the national and international recommendations for when it's safe to open things up more. This will give us an opportunity to see whether we're going to have a situation like England did with the variants and things getting much, much worse, or whether things are going to start getting better. If they are better in 2 weeks, great, we open in 2 weeks. My second recommendation is that we're sure to require CDC accepted masks indoors whenever within 6 feet of anyone. These masks cannot have exhalation ports that are just blowing the infected germs at everyone else. Must be 2 layers thick, fit closely, and cover the mouth and nose. I think we should continue to monitor the infection rates here in Lee and Collier counties and to plan to increase indoor capacity when both rates fall even lower, for example, below 3%, and then plan to close more if they've dropped down to under 5 and then go back over 7. We need to adjust based on what the risk is here for our citizens. I want to remind everyone that the vaccines are very good at preventing serious illness and hospitalization. They are not very good at preventing infection. And so that any of us, even with 2 vaccines, may be infected and may be able to infect someone else who is not protected, who may have a very serious disease if they haven't had the 2 vaccines. And until we have a lower infection rate, indoors is not recommended to be safe by World Health Organization, CDC, as well as Florida Department of Health.
Oh,
Okay, I'd like to hear from John Meehoke and Michael.
Yeah, I thought we had a discussion on this a week or so ago, and that we were going to wait until after the annual meeting and then assess the situation at that time, because by that time, hopefully more people will have been vaccinated and we can see what the accounts are. That's where, you know, I would vote for that.
Okay, Michael, what's your take?
I agree with what John is saying. I think that we need to run this out 2 or 3 more weeks and see where we stand.
Okay, let's go to Chap, then Terry.
I'm not falling on a spear over any of this, but I don't know who to believe. All right, let's lay it out for everyone here. I'm a Democrat, but in this one, I'm going to listen to the governor, and that the governor is inconsistent with his health department is not my problem. Legally, if we follow what the governor is saying, we're in no jeopardy. Furthermore, anyone that doesn't want to dine, doesn't want to play cards in the dining room, doesn't want to use the multi-purpose room, they don't have to. Furthermore, by putting it off another month, yeah, I guess maybe we'll be in better shape. But Lanny, there is no way your criteria for opening is going to be satisfied in another month, because you're talking about infection rates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's way too complicated.
It might be, Chap. I mean, we're almost there. If the variants aren't a problem, we're going to be okay in a couple of weeks. We've had several days below 5%, but we just haven't been consistently there, and we don't know what's going on with the variants. I also would disagree with you, or I don't know, and I think we should ask Jason whether we're okay listening to the governor versus and ignoring the Department of Health.
I go to restaurants, Lonnie, that are full.
That has nothing to do with us.
Are they in legal jeopardy?
No, restaurants are a separate category. Multi-purpose rooms are different. You know, the governor hasn't said play cards and games.
There's never going to be a rule for multi-purpose rooms and card playing in a dining room.
But
never.
So the point is, the health department says no, and the governor doesn't say anything about indoors, other than Collier County mandates that everyone wear a mask.
The only rules for multi-purpose rooms will be based on what this board decides,
Other than masks.
right? So I
You
want to hear
talk to
from,
Collier County, they can't even give you an answer about what you can do and can't do.
want to
Right,
go
but they
to,
do require masks.
No,
let's
they
go to
don't.
Terry, then Lindia.
I don't think, Lanny.
They don't.
I'm done. I mean, again, I'm not going on a spear at all. I'm just saying, let's get on with it.
Terry, you're muted.
Yeah, I lost
I'm back
the
up.
picture. I have
Yeah.
sound, but I lost the picture.
Go ahead,
if we-
Terry.
If we open up the card playing, the upstairs, open up the business center, et cetera, then we'll be consistent with most of the clubs are surrounding us, because the ones surrounding us are far more opened up than we are. And at this point here, I think that our conservative approach has certainly kept infection rates down to virtually nothing. But I think it's time for us to open up. I mean, the season is more than half over. So, waiting another 2 or 3 weeks really eats into the season. We'll have like a month left.
Okay, Lanny, and then Lindia, and then we're going to vote.
2 points. On the dining thing, we're going with, I think most of us want to listen to Mark's advice, and now's not the time. In terms of cards and games, people don't need to come inside. There's lots of cards and games going on outside. And also in terms of other communities, I don't know if you're aware, Mediterra is still limiting guests. They still don't want anybody from outside their community to come in. So we are not the most conservative by any means. And I haven't done a survey. I don't know all the other restrictions, but I don't think that that we are anywhere but other than in the middle on this, that many communities are being very careful and protecting their residents. And, as long as people can do what they want to do outdoors, why would we ever want to encourage them to take more risks?
We're not encouraging them.
Not
Given the
encouraging.
option
Open
to
the doors, we're
exercise their
encouraging them.
own choice.
No.
Right. But if
Well,
we, if you don't
let
them,
me
then they-
pick up on your point, Lanny, that last year Mark and I took a great deal of heat because we didn't have tables on the terrace, on the veranda area, and it took us quite a while to get them from wherever they were to back on the terrace. But we heard about it for quite a period of time. So they're there now, and we might expect that they'd be used. Let's go to Lindia.
They are.
Yeah, and I would encourage it.
So Mark, I would like to hear from Mark about, he knows what clubs are open and what aren't, and how we stand in the
So
scheme.
relevant.
Go ahead.
I can just tell you that, the other golf clubs are all open 7 days a week. They're full on within their own community. I cannot tell you whether or not they are allowing guest play.
Well, no, I don't.
I know that they are allowing guest play for golf, straight up, because that's something that's been discussed. But they are all open. Some have never closed down. Legends up in Fort Myers never shut down, never did anything. They
Right.
just went and kept on going from day one. Pelican Sound did a lot of work, but they have had several COVID cases at the same time. So I would say that this is a case where we're here to work for you folks. We're here to do what you want us to. We're going to provide the safest and the most efficient service that we can for you, if and when you want to get us going. So
So
I don't have, my personal feeling about you folks playing cards and mahjong and whatnot in the dining room in a socially distanced arena is honestly something that, if you're here, we'll have, we can accommodate you, of course, because you're gonna be in there and you're gonna be playing with masks if you want, and that's up to you. From our standpoint, it's currently masked inside. I don't have an issue with that. Multipurpose room, the only reason I have an issue with that is because there's gonna be people that want to use it for more things than card playing and mahjong. We have the people who like to work out and exercise in there. We have people that want to play ping pong, art league, do other stuff. And I think that's it's fairly open, and it's open all night long because you can get out the back door. So it's that's one of those unpoliced areas where if you're up in the dining room, we can kind of monitor what's going on and keep you under control and ask you to leave at the time that's appropriate. So
Basically, that's why I
my
asked,
feelings.
because my point is that most places are open.
Yes, they are.
I would like to make the motion that we open the dining room for multi-purpose games. Some people will play on the
Let's
veranda.
hang on. We've got 3 motions on the floor currently. Let's dispense with them before we come up with other motions.
We have
Okay.
one motion with 3 parts.
So I recommend we take each motion individually.
Okay, I'll amend it and put up motion number 1. Scrap the previous motion. My first motion is that we open the dining room and bar area to the extent allowable by the state of Florida as soon as Mark and Nicole can make it happen. That's the first motion.
Second.
Well, okay, we have a second. The discussion there would be, I'd be I'm a little confused about as soon as Mark and Nicole can make it happen. They could make it happen right now. But
All
I
right,
think,
then make it happen right then. I'll amend it. Make it happen right now.
no. What I'm saying is Mark had a condition. And I'd rather have the motion read according to the condition rather than open immediately.
Okay, what's the condition, Mark?
I think the condition is that we have enough people to warrant opening the food and beverage operations.
But you
We
don't
can-
open,
How you gonna know?
You don't know
Let
till
him
you open
finish.
it.
Let him finish.
We can go ahead and, like Nicole said, we've already got events planned for outside. We've already told people we're going to be outside for March 5th, etc. I would like to at least get some of that going. I personally, we have an example. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. St. Patrick's Day is a very, usually here, a very well-attended event here within the community. Let's just say we could get 75 to 80 people and wanted to enjoy St. Patrick's Day. I personally would feel uncomfortable about having them up here inside because it's that it exceeds the socially distance rule, and it kind of makes it difficult. And I don't think, and here's John Mihawk for one, says, I don't feel comfortable in coming inside where there's going to be a large crowd like that. But if it's going to be outdoors on the lawn and you're going to be socially distanced outside, it may be more successful for us from a business standpoint to hold it outside and have a great crowd with music and be successful out there. But as time moves on and we have more people asking to move inside, such as the Moxley Group, etc., we also have Casey Andolino and her group. If we can get enough people interested in being here on a Friday night for dinner and make it suitable, we will advertise, open it up, and see if we can get the crew in here so that we can get moving on that. That's the food and beverage operation only. As far
Okay,
as
let's just stay on that. That's the only motion on the table right now.
Yeah,
is
we're
food and beverage.
recycling, Paul. We're going through the same thing over and over. Let's vote. Everybody, we're just hearing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, we're going to vote shortly. I want to make sure everyone is clear on the motion.
Yeah, but
Number one.
we're going through the same,
Well, you'll have to be patient. Hang on. We'll
Well,
get
you're
through
usually
it.
the
amend
one
the
that's
motion.
not patient, cutting off people, Paul. So
Well, I think
I
that's
can,
my
I
job.
can be
So
impatient for once. We've
Okay,
heard, we've gone through the circle and heard everybody make their pleas, and we've heard it about twice, 2 or 3 times.
okay, this is important business. Be patient. So with that, chap,
I'm gonna-
you subscribe.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
amend the motion. I'm gonna restate the motion. We open the dining room and bar area to the extent allowable by the state of Florida as soon as Mark and Nicole determine sufficient interest.
Okay, I can support that, whereas I could not support the prior one. So Brownie, I think that time was worth it. So let's listen to you, Linda. What do you have to say?
So all the restaurants in town have curbside service and in-house dining. So why can't we do that? And then the people that still want curbside, they'll pick up their meals just like they've been doing. And the people who want to go inside and eat can.
I'm not talking about dispensing with curbside.
No, I know. But that's currently the problem. The problem is they can't do both.
Why not?
Well, according
Because
to Chap's motion, that can happen as soon as Mark and Nicole
Right.
say it should happen.
Well, ask Mark.
It's still difficult to put out 2 plates of food and 4 bags of food, having them go to different places at the different times. It's logistically difficult. If Nicole can get her crew together and we can do the inside and outside, we will do it.
Well, that's what I think. And I think that's the problem here. I think there's more to this than meets the eye. I think the deal is you're doing a lot of dinners curbside. And so you don't want to lose that revenue to go inside and not have very many people. And I can understand that position. However, that will get us to never open up. So I think we ought to figure a way to do both. And you'll have smaller amount of people inside, and you'll still have the curbside for the people who don't want to go in. To me,
I think that's inherent in Chap's motion.
Yeah.
well, maybe.
I'm sorry to be the bad guy here, but
All right, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, we have 3 against. 3 and 5. Okay. Next motion, Chap.
So does that motion pass or fail?
That passes.
All right. Number 2. I move that we open the dining room area for multi-purpose use to the extent allowable by the state of Florida, effective immediately.
I have a second.
I second.
I second.
Okay. Discussion. Lanny.
I guess I'd like a clarification. Does that mean the 10 people limit from the health department, or does that mean the no comment from the governor?
Socially distant.
Means,
So the health department
Mhm.
says no more than 10 people.
it means as the governor says, which is nothing about
Right,
multi-purpose use for a dining room. So
So,
Lanny,
so
Lanny, can I ask, is 10 people inside? Does that mean inside? What does inside gathering mean?
within
in
any one room.
So inside of a ballroom? It doesn't matter what the size of the room is.
Right, because the germs
how
are
do- how do
circulating
they-
and you get
So
more than 10 people
how do
and
they
you
have
increase the chance.
How do they have the hockey games at Germain Arena and stuff like that? How do they manage that
well,
with thousands of people?
I mean, they're not following good public health practice.
How are all the restaurants open? You go in any restaurant, there are lots of groups of more than
There's more
10
than
people.
10 people in any room.
Well,
I
I'm
just
just
didn't know,
telling
is it
you
this-
that when we say we're gonna follow Florida guidance, we're not following Florida guidance. So, I mean, it's,
I just didn't know the size,
Well,
so it
that's
doesn't
a
matter
matter
the
of
size of the
opinion.
room is 10 people. I didn't know. I mean,
yeah,
I just
no,
didn't know.
it says, do not gather in groups of more than 10 people.
okay.
Well,
And so So I think, before anyone knows what to enforce, Chap, we need to know, are you talking, how many people are you talking about? Are you talking about more than 10? Or are you going to limit it to 10?
No, it's
Limiting it.
not gonna be limited to 10.
I'm
If you
gonna,
go to
I'm gonna,
Huntington-
I'm gonna limit it to the capacity of the room, just like it's always been.
And because it's indoors, you're going to mandate masks?
I'm not
Yes.
mandating masks.
Well, you can't mandate it.
You can't, I mean, I'm not mandating masks because you can't enforce it.
We
And
enforce it in the gym
Not all the time.
whenever it's mandated, we do.
I'm gonna read the
All the
motion
time.
again. And it's exactly as it's written.
But my point is, I don't understand what it is. What are the limits going to be?
There aren't any.
Okay, so it's no matter how, it can be jammed with people up to the
Well, no,
fire
wait.
code and no masks.
No,
No,
Chap
we
is
wouldn't- the tables are socially distanced. We're not going to allow the
Socially
place to get jam-packed because the tables aren't there for people to sit at.
But
There's
his
social-
motion,
Well, whether his motion's there, that physical space is not there available.
Oh, I can modify the
think he's
motion
over-
to socially distance.
Yes,
tables.
let's, as the motion reads right now, I will not vote for it.
I don't think.
All
he's
If
right,
the
I'll-
motion, if the motion is modified to the level where I'm comfortable, I will entertain voting for it. So I need a little more information.
All right, I'll reword the motion that we open the dining room for multi-purpose use with socially distanced tables to the extent allowable by the state of Florida. That's my motion.
Second,
Michael,
I think that we also have to recommend that masks be worn. We have a recommendation, we have a sign on the door when you come into the clubhouse that you will wear a mask. And so we're gonna make it an exception that when you walk in
no,
the dining room, you don't have to wear a mask.
No, I think I have no problem rewording it again to recommend masks.
okay, we're getting closer to my comfort level. Lanny,
I just checked, the Collier County mask mandate has been extended through the end of April 2021.
Correct.
So we will be violating Collier County code and risking, a code enforcement if we don't mandate masks
but
indoors.
Chap
Oh.
has agreed to amend his motion.
No, I'll
No,
even
to
say,
mandate.
I'll even
I'm
say
saying-
that we require masks, but I'm not going to require our staff to enforce it.
Right.
Right, it'll be like Collier County, they don't enforce it.
Right.
Well, but I think the question is, right now, they're mandated in the gym from 1:30 to 2:30. It's enforced by those of us using it. And whenever someone comes in without a mask, we ask them to put it on. If
Good.
they object, we ask for assistance from staff and the staff will provide them a mask. And restate what the rule is. So we are getting support from staff. Staff are not monitoring, they're not the primary, but I think it's only appropriate that we do the same thing in the dining room.
I can live with that.
Masks are mandated and staff will assist. If,
Well- We're requiring masks, and if there's a hassle, just like there are hassles in
okay,
the gym,
okay,
the staff will be called and can provide a
Okay.
mask.
okay. So you're changing your motion to masks will be mandated.
Well,
Yes.
can I hit on the gym subject?
Yeah, that's
Wait.
fine.
With the masks in the gym, we only require it for 1 hour. So if anybody's ever given me an issue about wearing a mask, I tell them just to come back in 30 minutes and you don't have to wear one.
Right,
I
so
think
basically,
we might get issues when we ask people, are we gonna fine people if they're not wearing masks in the dining room?
No, listen, let's simplify
We're gonna have
this.
them go outside. They can play their games
masks are
outside.
not required in the gym. That's not true.
This is
Only for that
ridiculous.
1 hour.
Okay, listen,
He said-
if you want this motion to go through with the amendments, let's be reasonable about this. We're not going to ask our staff to enforce it, but we're going to require masks. We're going to require social distancing. in this area. The staff is not going to be there to enforce it.
But Paul, why do they not have to wear masks all the time in the gym?
Well, the next step is we're going to require it in the gym all the time. So let's not even go there.
That's actually my next recommendation,
I
but
know. And let's not even go there. So let's deal with the motion on the floor.
I'll try again. We open the dining room for multi-purpose use with socially distant tables and masks required effective immediately. That's, I
I'll
don't think
second.
I have to. I
Okay,
don't
we
think I
have a
to say
I'll
second.
anything.
second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
I do.
Okay, John, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a percentage of occupancy that's going to be included? Or is it wide open?
Well, by socially distanced tables, I guess what that means is what, Mark? The tables
6
have
foot
to be
apart.
6 feet apart or something?
Yeah, we can't get more than, with socially distanced tables in there, you can't get more than 50-60% of the entire room put together anyway, so it's.
But,
Yeah. So
but
it's
you- yeah.
like 6 feet apart or something like that, or 8 feet or what?
Yep.
6.
well,
All
the
right.
people have to be 6 feet.
Well,
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Okay, those who are opposed signify by raising your hand. Two
Nay.
opposed.
Okay.
Got it, Cezanne? Okay,
All
final
right.
motion, chap.
Final motion. I consider this one to be the most controversial of the three, but I'll say it anyway.
Oh.
We open the multi-purpose room with
Yeah.
socially distanced tables and masks required, effective immediately.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, discussion. Lindia, then Lanning.
I recommend if you open it, that you amend it to say for cards and game playing only.
I can live with that.
That's a good idea.
Lanning.
Well, since you can play cards and games upstairs and outside, why would you, number one, why do you need the multipurpose room, which is smaller, has less air circulation, et cetera, and not allow the activities that can't happen anywhere else?
Good idea.
Good question. Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, let's just make a point. I think Lanny had a good point. Let's wait and see if we need more room, open up the big room. If we get too many people playing cards, then we'll open the multi-purpose room, but for now, keep it closed.
I like that.
How do you feel about that, Lindia?
I like that.
I withdraw the motion.
Okay, motion is withdrawn. That concludes that discussion. Now we move to date of the next board meeting.
No,
Lanning.
Lanny's got something.
I wanted to discuss the issue of masks in the gym. Many of you probably saw the reports today about how many infections are occurring in gyms where masks are not worn. For the safety of our residents, I think we should require masks.
Okay. Lindia, you want to comment?
No, I don't want to make anything more restrictive than it already is.
Michael,
I go to NCH 3 days a week. They require masks on the floor, except when you are on a machine or doing an active exercise. At any other time, from the minute you walk in to the time you leave, you have a mask on. If you move from one machine to the next, you must put your mask on. That's their rule. I may or may not agree with it, but that's the rule in the big gyms these days.
Well, that kind of makes sense to me, and part of the reason why I haven't been in the that workout room in a long time.
Michael, what would you recommend?
Quite frankly, I wouldn't recommend, and I do, I wear the mask the entire time I'm there because it's proven, there's evidence that your CO2 or PC or your oxygen levels do not decrease with the use of mask. You know, they may get a little moist, they may be a little uncomfortable, but it does not impact your training.
What if we took a middle road and increased the number of hours that masks are required at all times in the gym?
Can I make a comment? Looking at the cameras and looking at the usage reports, we are never at your 8-person capacity for that hour at the gym, but the gym is much more busier when the masks are not mandated.
I couldn't understand you.
The
Yeah,
gym
there's-
is much more in use when masks are not mandated than your hour that masks are mandated. So more people are using the gym when they do not have to wear a mask rather than those coming in to use the gym during the hour they feel most comfortable wearing a mask.
So the problem is we have people contaminating the gym a lot of the time.
But that's why we have the mask mandate for your hour after we just cleaned it. That's why we
Right,
set
that
it
helps.
way. But more people like are using the gym without masks,
Yeah.
not during that hour.
Right.
I mean, we're not at like capacity. We're not having that 8 people from 1 to 2 every single day and needing more time for masks so more people can use it that feel more
Right.
comfortable.
What it does limit is those of us who need it. Like for today, I couldn't work out because I was
Oh.
here from 1:30 to 2. So it really limits our time to be there. So I'm not able to use the gym nearly as much as I would want because of the limit.
Let me ask a question, then we'll go to Lindia. Have we had complaints from homeowners about access or the use of the fitness room with
No.
people not wearing masks?
Not to me.
Have any of you heard of it? Any complaints?
I haven't.
No.
Okay, Lindia, let's go to you.
So I asked this, and maybe Michael or Lanny or somebody knows the answer, but I know that when you're just sitting playing cards with the mask on, that even though Michael may say your oxygen levels aren't affected, I know it's harder to breathe with a mask on and talk than it is without the mask. So I find it hard to believe that for a person who maybe is not in tip-top shape, and I see quite a few people going into that fitness center that aren't in tip-top shape, that it might be very hard for them to breathe when they're exercising, and the possibility of them become overexerted, I would think, is a real possibility. So I'm just wondering is it so really healthy to have that mask on when you're exercising?
Yes, it actually is
Well,
good for
that's
you because
from you,
it increases the humidity. It actually increases humidity, and that's good. Having your airways dry out is not good for you. So, and as Michael said, they've done studies, and it really does not impact your ability to ventilate appropriately.
Even with somebody that's overweight or has any sort of health problems, really?
Right.
Okay.
Browning, then Chap.
I'm not using the fitness room, but what I'm hearing is, to me, a solution is we increase the hours, and maybe including some more popular hours where you do need masks, still have people choose not to use masks. But from what I heard, particularly from Sion and even from you, Paul, we probably need more hours with masks, but keep the hours without masks for the people who want to do it that way. That's what exact hours, but that would be my recommendation. More hours with masks, but not completely with masks.
I think
I think
that's
that's a good
Lanny's
compromise.
proposal.
Yeah, I agree with, our choices are to give more hours where you have to wear a mask or do nothing.
Yeah.
And I could certainly live with a compromise that increases the hours where we ask for masks. Or
Okay.
require masks.
I'm sensing some silence, so I think we're through with the discussion. Landy, did you make a motion?
No, but I move that we increase the hours requiring masks each day from 1 hour a day to 3 hours a day. And get guidance from Suzanne as to what hours they should be.
Cezanne, you're comfortable with that?
I'll do whatever you guys tell me to do.
Well, let me put it this way. You're able to assess the peak hours versus the slower hours, and you can sort out what hours for masks.
I think you guys should come up with the hours for masks.
How about 11 to 2?
Well, I don't know whether or not we should chop it up and say it's an hour here, and then you got 2 or 3 hours, no, and then 2 hours, and then another hour.
I just personally, I understand what Lainey's saying. I just personally, looking at the cameras and looking at the reports, feel that those that are dead set at working out only with other people that are wearing masks are fine coming from 1 to 2. If they can't make it, they work out outside or they work out at home. You don't need machines to work out. You could do everything body weight regardless. So when I look at the cameras, the hours that masks are not required are much more in use. So to tell all those people now they can't use the fitness center if they're not comfortable wearing a mask, I personally wouldn't be comfortable wearing a mask working out. I think I would pass out.
I agree with
But
that.
we're
I
not
don't
saying
feel
that. We're not
comfortable.
saying that. What I'm asking is, we know the peak hours and we shouldn't touch those peak hours. We know they're popular and a lot of people are using them, but what we're requesting at this point is a few more hours during the course of the week that are restricted to mask wearers.
How about
Cezanne, if we-
And then I think you'll find you'll have even more people using the facilities with that understanding.
So then
If
maybe
we
you just
wanted to
extend it from
increase-
1:30 to 2:30 to 1:30 to 3:30. Masks are required. I don't know if you should go much later than that, as people are starting to like get out of school and use the fitness center.
What is it now? What are the hours now?
1:30 to 2:30. It's just 1 hour.
Can you live with 1:30 to 3:30, Lanny?
How about 1:30 to 4?
How about the 2:45 to 3:33?
Well, I asked for 2 hours, so I'm settling, I'm going back to an hour and a half.
No, I'm asking, can you live with 2? 1:30 to 2:30 or 3:30?
That's 2 hours.
Right. Can you live with 2 hours?
Okay,
She was willing to do 2.5,
no, he wasn't. I asked for it.
1.5.
All right, so
1:30 to 3:30.
make a motion, Lanny, that
I
is
move that.
the Lanny
masks-
Chap compromise.
I move that we accept the Lanny Chap compromise of requiring masks, that's in parentheses, of requiring masks in the fitness center from 1:30 to 3:30, 7 days a week.
Second.
Second, have we talked enough about this? Are we ready for a vote?
No,
Yes.
I'd like to talk some more.
You're denied the floor.
Hey,
All in
Paul.
favor?
Paul, you know you can remove any, if you're the host, you can remove anybody from this room.
Yeah, that's true. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. And we didn't even have to go to La Quinta Hotel to strike this compromise. Okay, very good. Anything else to come before the board today? Then let's set the next meeting will be March 25th, 1 o'clock, not
I have
1:30.
one question.
1
One
o'clock.
question.
Go ahead.
Why is the flag at half staff?
Rush
Because of Rush
Limbaugh.
Limbaugh.
Who
No,
decided-
Yes, it is.
it's
No,
her.
it's not. It's in remembrance of COVID, the 500,000
Oh,
people
that's
that
right,
passed
yeah.
away.
Oh, that's okay.
It better
Would
be.
you put that in the newsletter, Suzanne? Because
The
many people
newsletter
have
is already scheduled to go out, so no, I cannot. And by the time that the next one will be ready to go out, it'll be done and the flag will be
Well,
up.
then it should be an email, because I texted you this morning and asked why was it out?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
I have received complaints from homeowners who believed it was for Rush. So
That's
I
right.
Me
do
too,
think,
me
and they were,
too.
and they were very upset.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
wanted to know
let's
why the
send,
board
let's
approved
send
that.
something out and let's word it nicely that it's in respect of the COVID deaths.
500,000.
It will not be in the FYI tomorrow morning because that's already scheduled to go out. Something will go out later.
That's already queued. That's done because.
That's fine, but just send something else out tomorrow.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
My granddaughter asked, why is the flag at half mast? And she's big into politics. I said, I'm sure it's for COVID.
okay, next meeting is annual meeting, 1 o'clock via Zoom. Jason will be joining us, and then we'll have the organizational meeting directly after that with a whole bunch of new members, we think. Okay, so with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Paul, I have one question.
Go ahead.
We all need to submit annual reports for that meeting. I'm wondering who's going to do it for pickleball and communications?
I think the chairperson of those committees should be able to submit something.
Yeah,
But they need to be asked, to do that. They don't know to do
so
that.
we'll ask Mark to contact them and make that
Okay.
request.
Okay, because I think it's important that every group
Right.
is represented.
Good point.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you all. We accomplished a bunch today, believe it or not. So